If we thought just the way women thought, you wouldn't be attracted to us. Ultimately, it's differences that create attraction. And that's the first little piece of dating advice right there. What makes a relationship work is
to women, men are often a mystery. And I really want to specifically zero in on what's going on in the hearts and minds of men in the dating process, because most of my audience are single women, tend to be a little more mature single women, 40s, 50s, 60s. And many of them have had success in other areas of life, but have had a difficult time or a challenging time, or not the success or hope that they'd want in their relationships. And the dating process is quite frustrating for a lot of them. And they don't quite understand where men are coming from the time a man decides to ask someone out to whether he decides to continue to date her and what that process looks like, all the way to potentially getting to a commitment and even marriage. And of course, I recommend your book, Mars Venus on a Date, so often, but I'd love to explore just kind of from the male point of view, a little bit more about what's going on in the dating process. I'm leaving it kind of wide open because there's so much there, but I know you have a lot of wisdom to share with us in this area.
Well, Michelle, I love talking with you, and I hope that you will interrupt me and ask questions, because I could talk 5 hours straight on the ideas in that book, Mars Venus on a Date. But we really, if we want to get into the minds of men, we do it from the perspective of how I do it from the perspective of how it's different from the way women think. So that gives it relevance. Okay. So if we thought just the way women thought, we wouldn't be such a mystery. If we thought just the way women thought, you wouldn't be attracted to us. Ultimately, it's differences that create attraction. And that's the first little piece of dating advice right there. What makes a relationship work is similar values. Okay, so you have to have certain values. Like all my wives, I was married to Barbara for 2 years, married to Bonnie for 34 years, married to my present wife now for 3 years. Similar values is really what holds it together. And for me, that is sincerity and spirituality and love. Those are real big priorities for me. And sincerity is honesty, it's integrity, it's a good guy. I don't cheat anybody. I don't want to cheat anybody. And so any woman who reflects that will be attracted to me, and I'll be attracted to her because of that similar value. But next to similar values is differences. Okay, so my wife, Bonnie, we had different perspectives, and we could easily harmonize those because we have similar values. But the differences is what creates the attraction. She was really into making the home look beautiful. And I really appreciated that, but I'm not that neat. So, so there's this ultimate conflict that goes on inside of our relationship, which is I'm a bit messy. She's a bit overly neat. So if I'm messy, it's a very frustrating thing for her. If she's trying to get me to not be messy, that's a frustrating thing to me. So those are the differences. It's those differences that we had to learn how to harmonize and work together in that. So that the potential conflict has to be there because you have different points of view on things. I like to work hard, and she likes to have more time for the relationship. So there were places of compromise that we both had to make there. This is just an example. I'm just coming up with a few of the examples of where we're actually very different. And what I'm saying to women is don't look for the guy who thinks just like you do. He has similar values that you can admire and respect, but it doesn't have to be you're the same. Because if you really are the same, there's a great episode of Seinfeld, for those that watch the Seinfeld episodes, where Seinfeld, a comedian, he's always looking for love, and he finds this girl, and he has this great relationship with her for a couple of weeks, and then they break up. And George, the other guy, says, "Why'd you break up?" He says, "Well, she's so funny. I would give my jokes, but she always knew the punchlines. It's like she knew it. We think just alike. And so I want to be in a relationship because I don't want to be with just me all the time. I want somebody different from me." So there has to be that difference. And if you kind of look at it from a spiritual point of view, we're drawn to someone who's different from us in order to integrate that part of them that's not like us, but actually is within us. You know, ultimately, men are drawn to women when they are to connect with their own female side. So I can be a man single and just try to be more feminine, and my masculine will weaken. And this is any man who's single who has addictions. Addictions is when you're on your female side. You're depending on something outside yourself for happiness rather than depending on your actions for your happiness. Now, that's pure masculinity. Now, men don't always know that about themselves, but I'm telling you, if you look at a man who's happy and fulfilled, his happiness and fulfillment isn't coming primarily from a girl or a woman. It's coming from his own work. He feels good about himself. He's of service to the world. He feels good on a biological level. He's making a lot of testosterone by working. Then, as a result of that, he now wants to share the fruit of his actions. He wants to share the fruit of his actions, and that gives him a new level of fulfillment. So there's like a learning curve for guys, which is I want to be successful. So I get a certain level of success, and then I'm going to feel like I'm not happy with that because what I need is to be able to share that with somebody, because ultimately that's what masculinity is about. Whether men know it or not, they don't always have the introspective awareness, but when they read my books, they go, yeah, this is just as I think. I validate their tendencies. But, you know, we think of men as noble men who give up their lives to protect their families, to protect their countries, to do anything for a woman that she doesn't want to do. And ultimately, that was the world we came from, where men did dirty jobs, dangerous jobs, difficult jobs, and didn't complain about it. They were happy to do it. They don't whine about it. They don't say it's unfair working conditions. They don't say anything. They don't complain. That's masculinity. It's not a victim. But then what they would do is earn their money, and then they want to bring it to the woman to make her life better. And that's what would open his heart. So biologically, we don't have the estrogen that women have. Women have to make 10 times more estrogen just to be happy, and 20 times more estrogen than a man in order to feel romantic feelings. This is really different. Now, what produces estrogen? Estrogen is produced when you're depending on someone for something. So as a woman, you're being attracted to a guy. There's a part of you that goes, oh, this is a guy, he might listen to me. He might have money. He can support me. He might be charming, and he will appreciate me, love me, care for me. So in the beginning, you're living in a fantasy. Your imagination is saying, look what I can have. Look what I can get. Look what might be. And so it's like, what am I going to receive? Because that's what estrogen's all about. Estrogen is trusting others to give to us what we need. And that's the foundation of romance for a woman, is that I, as a man, my excitement is I see a woman who needs help. Every romantic novel is always, he's either a billionaire with his own helicopter, or he's a pirate who's adventurous, but he's got gold. You know, he'll face danger. He's tough. You know, there's I forget what the other stereotypes are, but it's men who can provide something to fulfill a woman's needs.